Western art history. Rational and clear neoclassicism. Representative artists of neoclassicism. Painting. Prominent neoclassical painters include Gavin Hamilton, England; Anton Raphael Mengs, Germany; Jacques-Louis David, France; Andrea Appiani, Italy; and Pierre Narcisse Guérin, France, among others. Among them, the most influential figure was France's Jacques-Louis David, along with many of his students. Gavin Hamilton's masterpiece, The Oath of Brutus, invites us into a pivotal Roman legend. Completed in 1764, this oil on canvas now resides at the Yale Center for British Art, New Haven, Connecticut, USA. Ferdinand IV, King of Naples; Anton Raphael Mengs, 1760 oil on canvas. Museo Nacional del Prado, Madrid, Spain. In this formal portrait, Ferdinand IV, the young King of Naples, is portrayed with regal bearing, yet retains the innocence of childhood, adorned with symbols of royal authority such as the Order of the Golden Fleece and the Order of St. Januarius. He stands amid a richly decorated courtly setting. The painting is currently on display in room 022 at the Prado Museum in Madrid. General de Seix, Andrea Appiani, 1800 to 1801 oil on canvas. Musée National du Château de Versailles, Paris, France. In this evocative portrait, General Louis-Charles Antoine de Seix, Napoleon's trusted commander, is shown reading a letter, flanked by two figures in Eastern attire. His loyal Mamluk, Aide Ismail, and his servant Bakwil. The general's profile, distant gaze, and solemn posture suggest a moment of reflection. Painted shortly after de Seix's death at the Battle of Marengo in 1800, the work honors both his military valor and his tragic sacrifice. Napoleon pardoning the rebels in Cairo, Pierre Narcisse Guérin, 1808 oil on canvas. Musée National du Château de Versailles, Paris, France. Set in the aftermath of the Cairo Revolt of October 1798. This monumental painting captures a moment of political theater. Napoleon, calm and commanding, extends clemency to the defeated Egyptian rebels. Behind him stands General Joachim Murat, while the subdued figures of the rebels kneel or bow in submission. Originally commissioned for the Tuileries Palace and exhibited at the 1808 Salon, the painting now resides at Versailles as part of France's national historical narrative. 1. Jacques-Louis David, 1748 to 1825, France. Born in Paris, Jacques-Louis David began his artistic training under the guidance of his distant relative, Joseph-Marie Vien, in 1765. A year later, he entered the Royal Academy of Painting and Sculpture. In 1774, he won the coveted Prix de Rome and departed for Italy the following year, remaining there until 1780. During his stay, David explored Naples, Pompeii, and Herculaneum, where he became deeply inspired by Renaissance art and classical Roman culture, an influence that would define his lifelong devotion to neoclassicism. In 1781, David was elected to the Royal Academy, and by 1782 he had married and started a family. His return to Rome in 1784 marked a pivotal moment. He completed the Oath of the Horatii, a painting that used classical narrative to reflect on contemporary values. Later, in 1789, David exhibited the lictors returning to Brutus the bodies of his sons. Painted for King Louis XVI, was exhibited at the Salon. The subject tells the story of Lucius Junius Brutus, first consul of the Roman Republic, who condemned his own sons to death after their failed attempt to restore the monarchy. On the left side of the canvas, in front of a simple Doric-style architectural colonnade, Lucius Junius Brutus sits silently in shadow. Behind him, an attendant is seen carrying the body of his son. In sharp contrast, on the brightly lit right side, the mother and daughters express emotions of grief, despair, helplessness, and emotional agitation. The presence of the children further heightens this emotional contrast. This painting not only portrays a single-family tragedy, but also tells the story of Brutus sacrificing his own kin in defense of the Republic, while at the same time reflecting the moral values and public sentiment of the era. After the outbreak of the French Revolution in 1789, France entered a period of social and political upheaval. At the end of 1791, David attempted to paint a portrait of Louis XVI, but was unable to complete it, which led to some trouble. In 1792, during the radical phase of the Revolution, He was elected to the National Convention, became a member of both the Committee of Public Instruction and the Committee of Public Safety, and was instrumental in founding what would become the French National Museum. In June 1793, Jean-Paul Marat, 1743 to 1793, was assassinated. David immediately began painting the death of Marat, portraying a simple, heroic figure with deep emotion. Later that year, David was appointed to the Committee of Public Safety and aligned himself with Robespierre. Maximilien Francois-Marie Isidore de Robespierre, 1758 to 1794. Following Robespierre's downfall and execution, David was arrested twice in 1794 and 1795 during his imprisonment. He created self-portrait, and his only landscape painting, The Garden at the Luxembourg, a tranquil scene observed from his prison window. After his release, he focused on teaching and portraiture, mentoring several artists who would become leading figures of the next generation, such as Ingres and Gros. Greater than 1799, David completed the intervention of the Sabine women, drawing upon a legendary episode from early Roman history. According to the tale, the Romans once abducted Sabine women to take as wives. Years later, when the Sabine men came to reclaim them, the women intervened, stepping between the opposing forces to plead for peace. In David's interpretation, the central figure, Hersilia, daughter of the Sabine leader Tatius, and wife of Roman general Romulus, stands between her father and husband, arms outstretched in a powerful act of reconciliation. Around her, the other women and girls begged and wept amid the battle between the two armies. The scene appears especially innocent and pitiful. David especially used classical sculpture-like nude figures to express the temperament and symbolic meaning of heroic warriors. David used the enmity between the Sabines and the Romans as a metaphor for the years of civil war that caused countless innocent people to suffer. The painting conveys a message of reconciliation and the artist's longing for peace. Its emotional depth is as moving as the technical mastery of the artwork. And when critics questioned his use of nudity for historical subjects, he defended it by citing ancient and Renaissance precedents. Ancient painters and sculptors often used nudity to represent heroes, gods, and figures they admired, such as Michelangelo, Da Vinci, and Raphael. They weren't showing philosophers. They might add a shawl over a shoulder, but what they truly aimed to convey was the figure's character and spirit. They didn't necessarily paint warriors either, just placed helmets on nude bodies, added swords, shields, sandals, and yet still evoked heroic strength. To enhance beauty, a shawl was enough. Remarkably, David arranged for the painting to be viewed only by purchasing a ticketon, unusual practice at the time. Nevertheless, it attracted wide attention and remained on display for 5 years, from 1799 to 1804. Following this success, David turned to Leonidas at Thermopylae, which he began in 1800, but did not complete until 1814. With Napoleon's rise to power in 1799 as first consul of France, David's artistic career entered a new chapter. In 1800, he was appointed chief court painter and tasked with shaping the visual narrative of Napoleon's leadership. After Napoleon's second Italian campaign ended in victory in 1800, he reconciled with King Carlos IV of Spain and re-established diplomatic relations between the two nations. As part of a traditional gift exchange, Napoleon received a royal portrait of Carlos IV and Queen Maria Louisa, painted by Goya, the official court artist. In return, Charles-Marie Alquier, the French ambassador to Spain, requested a portrait of Napoleon painted by Jacques-Louis David to be displayed in the Royal Palace of Madrid as a symbol of renewed ties. Napoleon approved the request and instructed David to produce 3 additional versions. These were sent respectively to the Château de Saint-Cloud near Paris, the Officers and Soldiers Sanatorium in Paris, and the Cisalpine Republic in Milan. It's located on the southern side of the Alps. David kept a 5th version in his personal collection until his death. The painting portrays Napoleon in a heroic pose as he crosses the Alps en route to the Great St. Bernard Pass. The artist emphasizes the rugged landscape through a steep, snow-covered incline. Napoleon is shown astride a rearing horse, his arm raised toward the summit, symbolizing his resolve to overcome hardship. Inscribed on the rocks beneath him are the names of Hannibal, the famed Carthaginian general and Charlemagne, linking Napoleon's ambitions to those of legendary military figures from antiquity and the Middle Ages. In reality, Napoleon traversed the Alps on a mule, guided by local soldiers through deep snow. However, he believed that a painting should reflect not literal truth but spiritual strength and personal character. Thus, he commissioned David to depict him calmly riding a fiery steed, projecting the image of a leader ready to master a tumultuous Europe. David reproduced the original Napoleon crossing the Alps in 5 versions between 1801 and 1804. Each one showcases his precise draftsmanship and vibrant palette. Despite repeating the composition, David's discipline and artistic integrity remained undiminished, making this series a remarkable benchmark in the history of European painting. In March 1804, Napoleon formulated the Civil Code and became Emperor of France in May. Following this, David created a series of large-scale works in a classical and grand style, including the Coronation, the Distribution of the Eagles, and Gross Battle of Aboukir, now housed in the National Museum of the Palace of Versailles. The full title of Napoleon's coronation is The Consecration of the Emperor Napoleon I and the Coronation of Empress Josephine in the Cathedral of Notre Dame de Paris on December 2, 1804. Commissioned by Napoleon, David's monumental painting faithfully captures the moment Napoleon crowned the kneeling Empress Josephine. Its elegantly dressed men and women looked on, immersed in the ceremony. The composition is strict, the forms refined, the embroidery and gold ornaments exquisitely detailed. The colors are vibrant, and the textures lifelike, deeply moving to behold. David was present at the ceremony and sketched the scene on site. He rendered the setting and figures in a classical manner, carefully observing the participants and realistically portraying their expressions and gestures. To ensure accuracy, he invited many individuals to model, prepared numerous studies, and thoughtfully arranged the composition and color scheme. Contemporary figures such as Pope Pius VII and Cardinal Caprara are depicted vividly and can be individually identified. Notably, although Cardinal Caprara and Napoleon's mother appear in the painting, neither attended the event, and the Pope's gestures were painted according to Napoleon's own instructions. This work stands as a historical record and conveys the solemn grandeur of divine authority. Napoleon in the study was painted in 1812. David did not portray a battlefield hero, rather a politician and legislator. In the painting, Napoleon wears a uniform, and a small candle glows on the writing desk to the right. The clock in the background shows an early morning hour. A book on the left lies open beside a scroll labeled Code, and the sword resting on the chair echoes Napoleon's attires, signaling that he is setting aside his work and preparing to inspect the army. Napoleon greatly appreciated the painting and once said to David, "You found me, dear David, working for the happiness of the people at night and for their glory during the day." David began work on Leonidas at the Hot Spring Pass in 1800. The painting process was interrupted several times. He abandoned it in 1805 and later resumed and finally completed the work in 1814. Leonidas was king of Sparta and a heroic figure of ancient Greece. In 480 BC, he led 300 warriors to resist the Persian invasion, firmly defending the Hot Spring Pass and dying heroically. The painting's background shows the rocky valley of the Hot Spring Pass. Leonidas is seen half-seated at the center of the composition, holding swords, shields, and weapons, calmly looking forward. Around him are many soldiers filled with fighting spirit, vowing to fight to the death. They climb dramatically, hold up laurel wreaths, play horns, and move in scattered yet organized formations that create a two-layered arc seemingly chaotic, yet deliberately composed. In this impassioned atmosphere, the painting expresses Leonidas's calm, heroic spirit and his self-sacrifice beyond concerns of life and death. The Hot Spring Pass is a narrow passageway that is easy to defend but difficult to attack, bordered by the sea on one side and steep cliffs on the other. A nearby hot spring gives the place its name, Thermopylae. Leonidas I, along with 300 elite Spartans, 700 Hebes, and 6,000 allied troops from other Greek city-states, resisted the Persian army at the pass for 3 days. Although vastly outnumbered, Leonidas's army blocked what was then considered the only route to Greece. On the third day, however, a local Greek betrayed the allies, and guided the Persian army along a mountain trail to their rear. In response, Leonidas dismissed the allied forces, leaving behind 300 Spartans and 700 Tiberi volunteers. Together, they accepted death, held their ground, fought fiercely, and covered the retreat of the Greek forces to the very end. This brave stand at the Hot Spring Pass provided the Athenian navy with crucial time to prepare for the next naval battle. To commemorate their heroic deed, an inscription was carved onto a lion-shaped monument. Guests, please bring a message to the Spartans that we have fulfilled our promise and slept here. In 1814, Napoleon announced his abdication. In 1815, after the defeat at the Battle of Waterloo during the 100 Days, the Bourbon dynasty was restored. In 1816, unwilling to accept reconciliation, David left Paris for Brussels, Belgium. He had begun copying the coronation of Napoleon. In 1808, and completed the accurate replica in Brussels in 1822, this large-scale work is now housed in the SHR's collection of the Palace of Versailles. David's impact extended beyond his own artistic production through the work of his students, who contributed to the development and adaptation of the neoclassical tradition in diverse ways. Among them were Elizabeth Lebrun, 1755 to 1842, noted for her portraits of the nobility; Anouilh Geordet de Rous-Triosan, 1767 to 1824, whose works combined classical subjects with elements associated with Romanticism; Antoine-Jean Gros, 1771 to 1835, who produced large-scale depictions of events from Napoleon's military campaigns. Among David's legacy was also Jean-Auguste Monique, Ingres, 1780 to 1867, who would go on to shape 19th-century academic painting with precise draftsmanship and an emphasis on idealized beauty.